Howdy, y'all. Welcome back. Today we're starting a series on the Book of Revelation, more properly known as the Revelation to John. It's by far the most metal of all the books of the Bible. It has inspired great writers, from Dante to Milton, from Iron Maiden to Metallica. Revelation is an outlier in scope, purpose, style, and theology. This is not a lecture about what revelation means. It's not an outline of what I believe. This is a casual stroll through the text, a tour of the book, so to speak. The whole time, I'll be working directly from the original Greek. And we'll be comparing different translations when needed, especially the good old King James, but we'll be using mostly my own translation. My approach and attitude is strictly the following. What does it say? And what does our knowledge of the past, such that it is, tell us about how we might interpret what it says? In this series, we'll see that everyone knows what Revelation says. People just argue about what it means. There was never a time when the revelation was understood to mean just one thing. So the first question in any historian's mind is going to be, when was it written? The general consensus is that the Revelation to John was written around 95 AD. Now, the traditional date for the crucifixion was 33 AD. So this is about 62 years after the crucifixion of Jesus. So we're talking 3 generations after the original Christians. Paul and Peter themselves were executed in Rome, according to the tradition, in 65 AD. So the book of Revelation was written 3 generations after the crucifixion, and it was written by the people who grew up in the wake of the execution of Paul and Peter. These are leaderless Christians. And not only that, it was a 1-2 punch. Paul and Peter were executed in 65 AD, and then Jerusalem itself was destroyed completely in 70 AD. The author of the Revelation to John grew up in a world without a temple at Jerusalem. The Dome of the Rock wasn't there either. That wasn't until the late Middle Ages. But one thing to remember is that when the Romans decided to destroy Jerusalem in 70 AD, it was after decades of hostilities and rebellion and insurrection, and the Romans decided to apply an extreme and permanent solution. And the problem with destroying the temple is that marble doesn't burn, at least not in the same way that wood does. And so the Romans were able to destroy most of Jerusalem just by throwing some torches through windows. But the Romans had to do something special for the temple. It was such a huge and powerful symbol that it had to be dismantled. And so the Romans brought in geologists and engineers to use work crews and cranes to actually dismantle the temple, to take it apart, stone by stone. And the only thing that they left, what's now called the Wailing Wall. You've probably seen this B-roll on news broadcasts about the Middle East, and you'll see pious Jews in particular nodding toward the wall and saying prayers to it, and slipping little scrolls with prayers written on them into the cracks between the rocks. That Wailing Wall is revered precisely because it's one of the few features that the Romans left. So why did the Romans leave the Wailing Wall where it was? I'm fascinated with this story because it says a lot about the Roman mindset. The Roman engineers were concerned about soil erosion, which was a huge problem in the Italian peninsula and still is today. And so the Romans knew if you were going to build some giant heavy building on a high peak, you better check to see how stable that peak is, because land has a tendency to shift. And so the Romans made sure to leave that giant retaining wall where it was, because it was placed there to keep the Temple Mount from disintegrating over time because of soil erosion. So that shows you the extremely literal, practical, down-to-earth concerns of the Romans compared to the divine and eternal concerns of the temple authorities in Jerusalem. Bear in mind that the Romans did this to the Jews and to the temple in Jerusalem, but Judaism was not even technically illegal. And so now we turn ourselves to this offshoot of Judaism, this new thing, Christianity, that has taken root in the Eastern Mediterranean. And it is entirely illegal. You cannot be a good, faithful, obedient Roman and also be a good Christian. And note that Christianity would not become legal for another 200 years. That wouldn't occur until Constantine in the early 300s AD. We're not even to 100 AD quite just yet. So it's still a very dark time. Now, the Christian persecution is a complex subject. We'll have to do episodes on it. It was sporadic, wide-ranging in severity, and it tended to come and go, and it very much depended on who you were, where you were living, who were the rulers at the time, what was your social status. One thing we can say is that what we call persecution of Christians, in some cases, did involve public executions or forced confessions of faith, the kinds of things we read about in the literature of the saints. However, there is evidence that most of the persecution was something we would call soft persecution, because people in antiquity were much more localized and interdependent on each other than they are now. And so back then, to persecute you, I didn't even have to go burn your house down and throw you in some kind of dungeon. All I had to do was deny your son's application to the local guild of whatever my son wanted to do. It's just a matter of, if I only have one daughter and I'm a Christian, then I have trouble marrying off my daughter, and so my family bloodline is in jeopardy. And so what we call persecution of Christianity really was this wide-ranging grab bag of terrible things that could happen to you because of your beliefs. In the modern world, we tend to think of persecution as something codified into law, like Jim Crow. In a world with no safety net, where entire careers are based on handshakes or public oaths, a person's social perception, the way that a person was perceived socially, was almost everything. It could make or break their entire life. And regardless of the details of the persecution that we accept, it's clear that in the time that the book of Revelation was written, the Christian church is on a tightrope. In 95 AD, Christians had good reason to be afraid. One way to think about the early church is to think about Fight Club. A fight club was not a particular building that you went to. There was no building in the community labeled Fight Club. And the first rule of Christianity was you do not talk about Christianity. The second rule of Christianity was you do not talk about Christianity, because next thing you know, people are going to get rounded up or get their heads cut off. So a church was not a building. It was an organization, an underground organization. When John talks about the 7 churches and talks about the Church of God later on, note that he's not referring to a building. He's not referring to a temple or a cathedral. Remember, the temple is gone. And the Christians say, good riddance. Jesus predicted it would be destroyed, and they're moving right along without it. And so remember that the word for church that John is using is ekklesia. And ekklesia just means a calling together, a summoning. So ekklesia is a summoning or a gathering. And so you can see how we're talking about the people and their interactions and their appointments to meet, each Sunday morning to do worship. Or to meet on, say, a Wednesday night, late at night, to open the scrolls that they just received from John, sending them a message. And we'll be participating in that later. With our AI readings, we'll be putting ourselves in that room late at night after the messenger has brought the scroll and some of the church leaders read John's letter for the first time. That's the moment I want to capture. And so, since ecclesia just means a gathering or a summoning, obviously there were times when they needed to be specific, and so they would say ecclesia kuriake, and kuriake would mean of the Lord, a lordly assembly. Kurios is the Greek word for Lord. Whenever you see capital L, Lord, in translations, it usually is referring to the word kurios in Greek. Ecclesia kuriake is not something you want to have to say day in and day out. So, very quickly, the Latin-based European cultures picked the first word, ecclesia, and turned that into iglesia or eglise, and then the Germanic parts of Europe took the kuriake part and changed that to kirk, and then through French phonetic perversion became church in English. So there's a story behind that word. And remember that in the Bible, earlier in the New Testament, it was said that wherever two agree, there is a church. So just bear that in mind, that churches are not buildings. They're not places. They are secret organizations, very vibrant, wide-ranging organizations. If you study biblical history or go into classical civilization, you end up having to deal with certain controversies. And unfortunately, these controversies can be very old because this is a field where disagreements can linger for thousands of years. One old controversy is the Homeric question. In other words, the exact number and location and chronology of the authors of the works attributed to Homer. The Odyssey and the Iliad, in other words. Long story short, people don't agree on exactly who wrote it, and people have their pet theories as to how many people wrote it and when. And in the backdrop of all this, you have the traditional view, which is that one heroic, talented, amazing guy named Homer managed to write all this stuff down and compose an amazing poem with one singular artistic vision. In biblical scholarship, the biggest old controversy is called the Johannine controversy. And Johannine is spelt Johannine, the Johannine controversy. And basically, this is how many Johns are there in the New Testament? Any of us who know someone named John, we know that they can be a problem, and there's just way too many of them. And so there are 5 important Johns connected to the New Testament, and a lot of their authorship overlaps sometimes. So in a rough chronological order, let's go over the Johns that we'll have to be dealing with before we can wade into the revelation to John, whoever that is. I guess the first John to talk about chronologically would be John the Baptist. He has a brief but very memorable role to play in baptizing Jesus in the Essene cult. It's sort of an extremist branch of Judaism, a monastic, ascetic branch. A lot of scholars think that John the Baptist is where Jesus picked up the habit of wandering alone in the wilderness to seek God, and the fasting and the meditative prayer. Now, since this person was there with Jesus, was mentioned by name at the crucifixion, they clearly have an important role to play. And so as other Christian documents emerged with references to John or suggestions that they were written by someone named John, a lot of Christian scholars, hundreds of years later, would tend to want to ascribe these new documents to John, the beloved disciple. Why not? He was described very positively in the New Testament. He was always seen as being very close to Jesus. And let me go ahead and get this out of the way. Here is a perfect example of why I love ancient Greek, because it's so specific. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room in the meaning, and so a crude, confused modern person might think, John the beloved disciple, what does that mean? What kind of love? Were they friends or something more? This is what happens, as a result of our confused culture and language, but we're always wondering about that kind of thing. But the word for beloved that is used is specifically for friends and family. If John was beloved in any way that was physical, romantic, erotic, sort of a partnership of some kind, they would have used a different word. Greek is very specific. Jesus was said to have loved John the same way, two brothers would love each other, or two combat veterans who were in Vietnam together, that sort of thing. Nothing that would have been regarded as scandalous in the least. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, the next is John the Epistle Writer. That's not a very fun title, but basically a person who wrote 2 long-form open letters that are included in the canon. And they were ascribed to someone named John, and traditionally they were thought to be written by John the beloved disciple also, although these letters start to appear much later. These letters start to appear during a time that would have been during his elderly years, let's say. Then there's John the Gospeler, meaning whoever wrote the Gospel of John, and it was the last gospel that was written, and it references the beloved disciple and information from John. And so even though the person who wrote the Gospel of John never said he was John, the book was traditionally ascribed to him. And so there you have it. And then, of course, for our purposes, the most important John is the John who wrote the Revelation. Who is this John? Almost certain it is not John the beloved disciple. This is another John. This John belongs to a 3rd generation of Christianity, a generation that is facing the loss of its leaders, a ramping up persecution, and also a wholesale conversion into Greek culture rather than the Aramaic culture that Christianity was born out of. And so we'll see that the man who wrote Revelation is of a different time and place than John the beloved disciple. Now, John was a very common name at the time, and thanks to John the beloved disciple being so beloved by early Christians also, not just Jesus, he and his brother James were so revered that John and James became insanely common among Christians. And so you might argue that John the Baptist may not have been winning any popularity contests, but John the beloved disciple, he did, and especially because he did not die a gruesome death. He was not martyred. He was the only apostle, according to tradition, who died of a long old age. A lot of parents thought it was a good omen to name their child John because they were thinking, well, that's the kind of life I want my child to live, to be besties with Jesus and live a long, happy life. Doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. So, I thought the best way to get this all sorted out once and for all would be to have all the relevant Johns come on the show and answer some questions. Like I said before, I know a lot of great people named John, including a John Wynn of Austin. John, I hope you're listening. You'd be my first guest named John, except for one unfortunate restriction. All of the Johns I'll be speaking to are unfortunately deceased. No longer with us in the flesh. They died just under 2,000 years ago. Through the miracle of AI, we're going to have 3 of the major players in the Johannine controversy come on the show. There are other Johns, believe it or not, that I'm actually going to rule out and say, let's narrow it down to the most important Johns. So I'm trying to help you out. Let's just keep it to 3 Johns. That sounds like something you might overhear in Las Vegas or Miami. Okay, all right, you can let him in. My first John is none other than the beloved disciple himself, St. John the Apostle. Come on in. Welcome. Yeah, have a seat, have a seat.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you're St. John the Apostle, right?
I never heard of him.
Oh, I see. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. St. John the Apostle spoke Aramaic, so he probably used a patronymic that referenced his father Zebedee. So he would have pronounced his name, let's see. Is your name, hold on, Yehonan ibn Zebedee.
Not even close. My name is Yahunan Barzabadia. My friends call me Yehu, but you can call me Yahunan.
Oh, okay. Modern people know you as Saint John.
Holy person? I'm no holy person.
Well, you're a revered follower of Christ, let's say.
Revered? Revered for what? Recognizing God when he worked miracles in front of my face? Oh, what ageless wisdom I must have. What glory for just being there.
Well, you and your older brother James were the first two disciples. That's cool.
Oh, what's special about that?
Jesus called you when you were just a teenager. That must have been amazing.
I was Rabbi Yeshua's first cousin. My brother and me. We were just the first people around when the Lord started his mission.
Oh, yeah. I had heard about that interpretation of the two verses where they say that...
Interpretation? What's to interpret? My mother Shlamit was Mariam's younger sister, and Mariam being Rabbi Yeshua's mother.
And so, for the folks at home, Shlamit would become Salome in Greek. And now your older brother James the Great would...
Who?
Oh, I mean your brother Yaakov.
Ah, yes. Poor Yaakov.
Well, now, at the very least, Yaakov does get referred to as James the Great, partly because he was the first martyr.
Are you very popular?
And that brings us to an interesting factoid. You were the only disciple who died of natural causes.
Do people listen to you?
And so Jesus told you to put away your nets and become a fisher of people. And you became the youngest disciple. And you were born around 6 A.D.
Try 10 A.D.
Wow. So even younger than the tradition. Then you died of natural causes in Ephesus in 92 A.D.
94.
Okay, 94 A.D.
What's the name of your show? Drag Me Down Painful Memory Lane?
So you lived to be, 84 years old. Unless the manuscript called the Acts of John that appears in the 3rd century A.D. is accurate. And in that case, when you were in a Roman prison, you were thrown into a vat of boiling oil.
That's baloney.
But you rose out of it unharmed.
Never happened.
And so, during this long, amazing life of yours, you took care of Mary until the end of her days. So, kudos to you for that.
She was my aunt. It's what you do.
Yeah, see, you're such a humble guy. I love it.
Well, only because my humility serves your comedic purposes. It's helpful now. But real humility can cause serious problems for everyone, son. It's not always funny, if you know what I mean.
And what makes your humility even more endearing is that you were always regarded as the most attractive disciple, at least in terms of physical attractiveness. In other words, you were the cute one.
What are you talking about?
Based on some of those paintings with those tight curls, one might describe you as the Justin Timberlake of the 12.
I was indeed very cute when I was a baby, sir.
I only bring it up because it's just that there's this long, persistent tradition in medieval art that you are portrayed as feminine or androgynous.
Androgynous, what?
Just something I noticed. But I mean, you're not feminine at all. You look very strong for your age. Very muscular. I mean, I can see it even under the tunic and the cloak and everything, but you're a very masculine John. Nice full beard. I like it.
I need you to explain to me what kind of show this is and what this has to do with anything at all.
Oh, it's about history. We just talk about history. Mainstream history. Stuff that everybody else talks about. I kind of try to stay on top of the trends. You guys are really trending now. Hashtag too many Johns. And we're just trying to sort it out. Just want to keep it a little light, a little fun. This question has been called the Johannine controversy.
Yahunan.
Yep, that one.
And what's controversial about me?
Well, it's really about your name and about documents that other people wrote later, and then Other people said that those documents were written by you.
And is that important? I mean, I don't know from any documents. I can read and write a little, but it's not my calling. I even know a little fish market Greek, as they say. But look, I'm good at taking care of people, not talking. My brother, he was the firebrand. He was great, but not me. Over the years, I did have people read me or recall to me the letters and the gospels that were being written.
And let me interrupt here. These are gospels in which you are referred to as the beloved disciple. That's cool. Basically, best disciple ever. Don't deny it. So, were all these gospels and letters about Jesus accurate?
What are you going to do? People see the same event in different ways. I know this Saul person certainly thinks highly of himself.
Oh, so you and Paul are enemies.
Oh, dear Lord, no. I have no enemy but Satan. I pray for Saul every day, but we do have our disagreements.
You don't call him Paul?
Saul is the Jew he was born as. Paul is the communicator and leader that he became. I suppose I just like the sound of Saul better.
But wasn't Saul a persecutor of Christians before his conversion?
Of course he was. According to Paul.
Ah. Well, that is some boiling hot tea for you listeners out there.
Boiling hot what?
Coming up next is a man born 2 generations after John the Apostle, and this is John the Evangelist. But, spoiler alert, his name is probably not John. I know this is confusing, hence the cringy AI bullshit. Now, whoever this guy is, he's known as John the Evangelist because whoever he was the author of the book that early church scholars ascribed to St. John the Apostle, Mr. Barzabadya. And John the Evangelist is connected to 2 epistles of John. I mean, epistles that were thought to be written by Mr. Yohanan Barzabadya here.
That's better.
Thanks. And these additional documents are called the Johannine Epistles. Johannine Epistles. And little is known about John the Evangelist, aside from the fact that the Gospel of John was written in Ephesus, which was a very prosperous city on the coast of what is now Turkey, and a relative safe haven for Christians. We know that there was a prominent church in Ephesus, and remember that early Christianity was like Fight Club. So a church was an underground organization that had certain secret meeting places associated with it, but that was it. There was no actual building in Ephesus that we would call a church. Christianity was still highly illegal. We're a solid 200 years before any cathedrals were built. And yet this church in Ephesus, this underground organization, continued to prosper and grow, thanks to writers who compiled and edited the stories and teachings of Jesus, like... Okay, you can let him in now. John the Evangelist. Hello, and welcome to the Conspiracy Farm. Now, you'd call yourself... Let me try it. Ioannes Evangelistes.
I would not call myself that. You just said John the Evangelist in ancient Greek. Poorly, I might add. But in any case, my name is not John. I am Alexandros, son of Elias. And before I speak any more with you, let me first say what an honor it is to meet you, sir. Truly, as a man who was baptized at age 30, I am blessed to meet a man of your importance on this side of eternity.
Nice to meet you too, Alex.
And now back to you. You may proceed.
So to recap for the listeners at home, the author of the Gospel according to John was not named John, folks. His name was actually Alexander, a fact unknown to history until now, confirmed right here on the Conspiracy Farm.
The one thing you forget is that, in my day, there was nothing to gain from becoming a famous Christian. That would be the last thing you wanted. The name of your little show here is fitting because, under Roman law, any discussion of Christianity would be considered a criminal conspiracy, a capital crime, no less. So, you wonder why all this stuff is anonymous. Maybe, just maybe, it's the case that rebels targeted by a tyrannical government normally refrain from decorating every scroll with its author's full name and home address.
So you like Conspiracy Farm as a title?
I didn't say that specifically.
But do you like the title? The Conspiracy Farm?
Not really.
So, Alex, the evangelist, what's it like to always be mistaken for an important historical figure? For somebody else? Always the bridesmaid and never the bride. Let me rephrase that. Ever since your gospel dropped, people have mistakenly said that your works were actually written by people who actually met Jesus. Unlike you.
Well, the good Lord knows we can't all be blessed as you. I mean, I've never had a podcast. I'll suffer that shame for eternity. But being mistaken for Yuhunan Badazabadia, that's no shame, but rather a tremendous honor. I feel as though I stand accused of some petty forgery here. Nowhere in the manuscript does it say it was written by John the Apostle. It contains testimony that he gave the Christian community. He is one of the named sources of the information I was compiling, but he did not write the words himself. I never said he did. The exact authorship doesn't even matter. It's whether the words are true. These concerns about authorship are matters of simple vanity, jockeying for credit.
Well, that makes sense to me. And so, let's remedy that situation. History doesn't know the author of the Gospel of John, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born and raised in Ephesus, Greek on my father's side, some Persian royal blood on my mother's side. My father was a wealthy man. His organization sold insurance policies to shipping companies at the port. As a young man, I studied rhetoric and philosophy at the same school where Heraclitus once taught.
Cool. Again, you heard it here first, folks. And that makes sense to me because, so Heraclitus proposed that fire was the principal element of creation, since fire can both create and destroy. So when you began your gospel with, "In the beginning was the Word," was that a callback to Heraclitus? But this time asserting that Christ, who is the Logos, was the actual principal element of creation?
Not really.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Vincent was wrong. I don't know what to say, Alex. That's never happened before.
What's never happened before?
Me being wrong.
There's that humility again.
A better question is, have you ever been funny before?
Oh, Alex, no. Too harsh, too harsh. Ah.
Oh, good one. Good one. I'm going to have to add an air horn sound effect for you for that one, Alex.
Oh, please do. I do so adore whatever it is you just mentioned. Thank you. What? Now, to return to my life and not your jokes, such as they are. I mean, sure, we had to read Heraclitus, but Plato was a definite influence on how I approached the
Plato.
information.
Well, that's not news. No offense. I'm just saying. The Plato connection is all over Wikipedia, I'm sure. So let me rephrase. The connection between you and Plato is very well established. In fact, some renowned scholars from the Middle Ages referred to the Gospel of John as, quote, Plato fan fiction.
What does that even mean? Who said that?
St. Thomas Aquinas. He said, quote, the Gospel of John ain't nothing but Plato fan fiction. Y'all. Period. End quote.
Must be after my time.
Oh, he is, yeah. I would say most people are. And he rocked you on the mic, so to speak, around 1250 A.D., over 1,000 years after you wrote your gospel. In fact, you wrote what became known as the Gospel of John sometime between 90 and 120 A.D.
Well, I wrote a draft in 80, but it was based on quite a bit of material from as far back as the 60s. and a friend of mine reworked it all in 92, quite brilliantly, in fact.
Okay, so let's talk chronology. The first canonical Christian documents to be published were Paul's letters, which start around 50 AD.
48.
Okay, 48. 48. So Paul writes letters from 48 to 67 AD.
No, he did not write the letter to Titus.
Oh, so we can confirm that now. You heard it here, folks. 65 AD. Okay, Paul's letters were written between 48 and 65 AD. Noted. Then, the Gospel according to Matthew was written around 50 AD.
It was not written by Matthew, and it was 48 AD.
That early?
I think I would know.
Huh. Well, I always heard 55 AD was more likely because...
Well, the likelihood of the truth being true is always 100%.
There's that Plato coming out again. Okay, and then the Gospel according to Mark was written in 70 AD.
68. But it was written by Marcus. Although we knew him as John Marcus.
Another John.
He worked closely with Peter for years. After St. Peter was martyred, John Marcus wanted to write the definitive gospel in honor of his friend.
I'm up to my neck in Johns, folks. Okay, so Gospel according to Mark, actually written by Mark, in 68 AD.
85.
85, wow. Well, that seems a little late because wasn't Peter executed in 65?
Well, in our day, we don't have to churn out content like maniacs. We can take our time and get it right. Do you really think someone's going to listen to this 2,000 years from now?
Well, speaking of listening to something important, let's hear from another person now, the author of the Revelation to John, who was actually written by a guy named John. So let's hear from John of Ephesus. Come on in. Hello.
Who are you?
Come on in. Have a seat. What's in the bottle?
Well, keep up that attitude, and you won't be getting a taste of what's in this bottle.
I just want to see the label. Oh, yeah, that's going to be good. You can open it in here, as long as you give me some. So, you wrote the Revelation to John.
No, I did not.
Okay, so who did?
Some guy named John, last I heard. From you.
But I think you told my producers that you were Ioannes from Ephesus.
I am Ioannes from Ephesus. But you can call me John if it makes you feel better. Whatever floats your boat, dude.
And when I came up with the rules of this corny AI concept, I said, we're talking to Johns involved in the Johannine controversy. In other words, Johns who authored parts of the New Testament, not just Johns who lived in Ephesus in the late 1st century.
Well, I guess I slipped through your little filter there because I did work on those letters you talked about.
Aha! Okay, so you're referring to the Johannine epistles.
Yeah, the epistles. I helped wordsmith those mofos with Mahomes Alexandros over here.
God be with you, Ioannis.
What up, brother?
Don't let him fool you. He was the friend who edited my gospel in 92.
Yeah, you know it.
I confess he can be uncouth, but it is good to see him again.
It's been too long, bro.
So you and Alexandros worked on the 2 Johannine epistles?
You can just say letters, dude.
The 2 letters that early church leaders attributed to John the Apostle.
Yeah. Look, here's the deal. My dad was kind of a megacles, if you know what I mean. Just like my bro Alex. People are making money hand over fist in Ephesus, dude. And credit where credit's due, those Romans, who are fucking assholes for the record. But the way they crack down on piracy keeps low overhead on trade by sea. Ephesus has a great natural harbor, always has, and ever since it was under Persian rule, it's been bougie as a mofo. Ergo, Ephesus is fucking awesome.
No.
I got 4 words for you. Temple of fucking Artemis. One of the 7 wonders of the world, baby. We rock all night.
Yes, I know. Until the late hours. even when some few Ephesians are trying to get some sleep.
Sorry, guys. I don't want to be a downer here, but I got to put this out there. Ephesus was destroyed by the Goths in 262 AD.
Oh, no.
I know, right? No more Temple of Artemis. These Goths do not wear eyeliner.
So no more Temple of Arty? If I believe you, then, yeah, bummer.
It was rebuilt, kind of. There's a Turkish town on the same site there. And the good news is, I guess you could say, the current population of the town is decidedly unpagan. Yeah, sore subject, but elephant in the room, you know. But go ahead, continue.
So anyway, I went to the same school as Mr. Big Shot Evangelist over here.
You are too kind as always, and quite profane as always. You yourself are a wonderful
Now,
editor.
since you helped write the letters, would you say that you and Alexandros here, agree on the major points of Christian theology? There was a bit of controversy and chaos and development during this period, from what I recall.
Yeah, well, just to keep it a buck, I'm not a Christian.
Really?
All right, here's the deal. Christian books sell like hot cakes. And I'm pretty good at writing, and I got social connections, so I helped edit some of the books, and I made sure we got lots of copies out.
So you had a lot of Christian friends, and you even did work for the church to copy and sell Christian literature?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds weird to you, but you modern people believe in either one God or zero. In my day, everyone believes in like 1,000 gods. The problem is not getting people to believe in Jesus. Jesus is awesome. I love Jesus. It's getting people to stop believing in all 999 other gods they believe in. And risk getting your head chopped off on top of that. But Christians are cool people, man. And it's pretty shitty how they're getting treated. So why not help out? That's what I say.
But weren't you scared of the persecution? It seems that Christianity was brazenly practiced, but there are some martyrdom stories from Ephesus around this time. I mean, what about that Hermione lady?
Okay, I personally never saw anyone tortured or killed for being a Christian. But that's not even the point, dude. I mean, sure, I help write Christian literature, and I may be known as Ioannes of Ephesus, but I am also known as Ioannes, the pagan party pig of Ephesus. There is no ritual depravity that I have not known.
No, that's awful.
And if the Romans ask me, I won't be lying when I say, sure, Jesus sounds awesome, but I'll still pray to the spirit of the emperor any day of the week if it means free barbecue.
What a horrible idea.
And don't get me started about Galatian girls.
This is terrible.
Well, that's fascinating, but it's not really what this episode is supposed to be about. I mean, no one really cares about those letters.
Wow, really, dude?
No offense.
Really, dude?
I mean, the point is we can't do this segment without the guy who wrote the Revelation to John. That's the whole point of talking to all these Johns. And the sources say that this particular John was from Ephesus, even though he was on the island of Patmos when he wrote it. So let's introduce the guy who wrote the Revelation to John, whoever he was, and no one else, please. Okay, you can open the door. Now it's time for the author of the Revelation to John, whoever that was, and no one else, please. Hello and welcome. Awesome. Have a seat. We finally have the actual author of the Revelation to John.
Yeah, that's me.
Great. Finally. It's really you. And no tedious weirdness about your name, so far. Now, scholars call you by a lot of names. John of Ephesus, John the Revelator, John the Divine, John of Patmos, and John the Elder.
I like John the Elder. The other ones are very, very stupid.
What makes you say that?
Besides the fact that they're stupid, well, let me see. First, John of Ephesus is stupid because I lived in Ephesus for a while, but so did millions of other people. Meanwhile, I grew up in Antioch.
You heard it here first, folks. Another conspiracy formed first.
Second, the Revelator thing is stupid because the risen Christ did the revealing, not me. I just wrote down what I saw. Third, to say John the Divine would be blasphemy, and blasphemy is stupid. And saying John of Patmos is stupid because I hate Patmos. Saying the word Patmos at all, for any reason, is stupid because it's an ugly word for an ugly island. I didn't want to be there. If I put your mother in a cage in Tartarus, would she then be forever known as the Queen of Hell?
No, now that I can tell you. That's going to be a username that's always taken. I don't care what number you add after it. So you were exiled on Patmos for being a Christian.
Yeah. I mean, have you been there?
No, but I've always wanted to go.
Why?
Well, it looks beautiful. Amazing historical sights to see. And I always wanted to see the Easter procession that they hold there on Easter.
What's an Easter procession?
It's a kind of parade ritual.
Yeah,
thing
I
that
know
the
what a
Orthodox-
procession is. I mean, what is Easter?
You could say it's a celebration of the resurrection.
Oh, good. It's always a good idea to celebrate the resurrection. I suppose I am glad and surprised that they still do it there in your time.
Exactly. Yep. So moving on.
But you used the word Easter. Is Easter a modern word for resurrection?
Yeah. Well, no. Actually, Easter is the name of a Celtic fertility goddess, and her festival was on the spring equinox,
That doesn't make sense.
which happens to be kind of close to Passover.
What the literal hell, man?
It just doesn't make sense.
I know. I don't get it either.
I do. Galatian chicks go buck wild on the spring equinox, dude. They paint eggs. They hide them outside. And then everybody fucks like rabbits.
Disgusting.
No, that's not okay. That's not appropriate. No, we don't do that. We don't do any of that anymore.
Do you see what I'm up against here? Is that stupid or what?
Well, sir, you and I clearly have different definitions of the word stupid. So for me, Easter rocks.
Oh, Yannis.
I want to party with you, Vincent.
Nah, we're done with all that.
It's demonic.
That's all a relic of the past.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Thank God.
No orgies on Easter.
Nope, we don't do that.
Really? Well, that's lame.
I wouldn't be surprised if you did, but thank God you don't.
Wait, so you guys just do the egg part? That's it?
So, moving on.
Dude, you're missing out on the best part.
Well, no doubt, in Celtic myth, they symbolize birth. Perhaps they could symbolize the rebirth of humanity through Christ.
Do they paint eggs on Easter in your time, or do they not?
Fertility idols on Resurrection Day. Stupid? Check. Surprised? Left unchecked.
No. I want to hear you answer my question. Do you still paint the eggs, or do you not paint the fucking eggs?
Okay.
Yes
you need to
or
calm
no?
down.
No. That would be stupid.
All right, Vincent. You said my word. I very, very much agree.
Liar!
Okay, so you were on Patmos because you were exiled there. You said that you were deep in prayer. I have suggested to my listeners that you were fasting deliberately in the same way that Jesus and John the Baptist were fasting deliberately when...
Behold, the messenger of the Lord hath come
Okay,
to shame this
okay.
bald fool for his misdeeds.
That's right. You tell him, John.
You can't come in here yelling like this.
You are a blasphemer and a podcaster, Vincent
Can we get
LeCornu.
John the Baptist out of here?
Hence, a podphemer, a
No.
blastcaster.
No, sir.
Can't shut him up.
You will inherit the
sir.
wrath of the Almighty.
You're out of here.
He's a righteous man in the eyes of God.
You sow the
You gotta
seeds
go,
of doubt.
John or no John.
You water them with the sweat of others.
Not you.
While
No,
your idle
we-
hands tinker with Satan's toys.
Speaks truth to power. Always.
Repent,
Fuck this,
Why
Vincent.
not?
vile
I want to hear
deceiver,
more.
whore.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay,
now you
yeah,
lead
well,
the
slut
world
shaming
into
is against
fire.
TOS,
There will be tears of agony.
so somebody's
There
getting
will be
reported.
moaning of regret and a loss of subscribers.
Well, he was always known for wearing his heart on his sleeve. Got him in trouble. Just like me.
I did not expect him to go personal like that. All right, so let's make a new rule. We can't mention John, the voice crying in the hallway.
Why doesn't he like you?
Well, if he doesn't like me, I have to assume it means he listens to the podcast. And it's cool to know he's listening.
Now, to be fair, he only liked one person ever.
See, Yuhanan, you are a very fair guy. That's why you're the beloved disciple. And to be honest, I'll go ahead and tell you, I'd love to have John in the hallway back to explain why he doesn't like me. But, I don't want to make anyone nervous, but if you yell too loud, this thing right here will explode.
Oh.
Right in your face. Instant death.
Well, then if that's the case, yeah, of course. Let's keep it down, guys.
Well, and it's not just that. It's not even that. It's we're lacking in hygiene also. There are some deficits in terms of hygiene, in terms of wardrobe, in terms of appropriate behavior. He comes in here wearing just that hair shirt thing.
That hair shirt thing?
The sign out front says, does it not? You saw it right. It says no shoes, no shirt, no service. I can't do anything about that.
He was wearing that for a reason. You never wore a hair shirt?
Metaphorically, definitely. Mohair, maybe.
That's close. Hair is hair.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you talk about sackcloth. All you ancient people talk about sackcloth a lot.
Well, it's what you do to show that you're in mourning. It's an expression of grief. It dates back thousands of years, even before I was born. It would be stupid to laugh about how our ancestors chose to express their suffering, right, Vincent?
So it's like wearing black to a funeral.
I don't know. Is black clothing uncomfortable?
Metaphorically, yes. In terms of fashion, never.
Then no. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. That's the point. To display and focus on the pain of the sorrow. Suffering is part of God's plan. So why do you guys wear black? Because it's not colorful? Oh, boom, who, poor you. I'm so uncomfortable at my funeral.
Well, in Asian cultures, white represents death. So they wear white clothing to funerals, which is also problematic in terms of fashion, by the way. IYKYK.
What do you mean?
Well, like, for example, white jeans look great, but they're a bad investment for an on-the-go coffee addict.
No, what did you mean when you said Asian culture? I am Asian. I've only lived in Asia my entire life, with the exception of that one Fleabag island that will not be mentioned. So I would know what colors mean in my culture.
No, East Asia. Big Asia. Asia Major. Major, not minor.
You mean India?
No, east of India. Far East Asia.
There's nothing east of India, my friend. The mountain range on the eastern bound of India is the end of Asia. Only the Great Ocean lay east of that.
The Great Ocean?
There's one giant ocean, dude. People don't study Strabo in your time?
No. Well, I did. But only because I studied you people.
What do you mean, you people?
Ancient people. Very argumentative ancient people. Like you Johns.
According to Strabo, where Hispania meets Africa, one can sail through the gates of Hercules into the massive ocean that surrounds all three land masses of the earth: Europe, Asia, and Africa.
And then Eratosthenes already proved that the earth is a sphere. So if one were to sail from Spain...
Spain?
Hispania. If one were to sail from Hispania due west, you would eventually land in...
India, dummy. That's what Strabo says.
But to attempt such a crossing would be suicide. The great ocean is too vast. No one could carry enough food or water to sail west non-stop from Hispania to India.
You're exactly right, Alex. No land in between. Nowhere to refuel or resupply. Too big to cross. Don't ever try it.
You're a liar, dude. You said you studied this in school. That's what you said.
Guys, let's keep it down.
Liar.
I think he's okay. He could stay. That was the only bottle. Okay. Oh, we're going to have to change the title of this episode to John's Gone Wild. All right, so I had like 10 questions, but we're running out of time. So let's see. What about... Okay, so I had like 10 deep philosophical questions for you, but we're running out of time. So what about... let's see. Okay, here. Yeah, here we go. What does 666 mean? 666. It's the number of a person. What does that mean? Who was that? Let's confirm it right here on the Conspiracy Farm.
Nero. It's a simple cipher for Nero. I mean, you guys figured that out, right?
Of course. We all understood it that way.
Yeah, let me try this in my best Latin. Nero totus asshole est.
This letter was part of a mass mailing. We made several copies of this. We sent it everywhere we could. To threaten imperial power explicitly like that at the time would be... What would it be, Vincent? You guessed it. It would be stupid. Why do I have to keep using that word? Why does it describe so many things about so many people? Why is that word almost synonymous with humanity itself, Vincent?
I know.
I mean, hello, help me out here. I'm saying that the Emperor, who we're not entirely sure was actually dead, was an instrument of Satan who must be defied at all cost. I'm sorry I didn't think to put that on a billboard with my signature along the bottom. In your time, what do they think 666 represents?
I think it refers to leadership. Or maybe the future. Future leadership. That's what 666 means to modern people, I think. So pretty much any world leader, any major world leader is going to be a suspect.
These visions don't apply to just one single time period. The affairs of mankind will always be stupid. Every era has a Nero. They will come and go, like the blows of a sledgehammer on the anvil we call the church. And every soul is like a block of pig iron, ready for purification.
Interesting. So it's almost like 666 is like the bat symbol. It literally refers to Bruce Wayne in the same way that 666 refers to Nero. But anyone could be Batman. He's a symbol. So just like I could be Batman, I could become the Beast through my future actions, right?
Yeah. Remember that word we talked about? I think that word perfectly describes your theory.
It was worth a shot.
Was it?
So, now that I have the author of the Revelation right here, sorry to put you on the spot, but I gotta ask, what does all this stuff mean? What do these images tell us? Do they predict the future? Are they code for historical events that already happened? Are they mystical code for sociological events that are always happening?
So are you asking me what the revelation means?
I mean, you wrote it. So cards on the table. What does it mean?
I don't know. I told you. I was in the spirit. I was stuck on that flea-infested sandbag of an island because I was a Christian. I was doing time for Jesus. I go where God takes me. And I saw what I saw. Plain and simple. Make of it what you will. The Holy Spirit will help you sort it out.
Okay. Well said, I guess. Thank you, John. And with that, I think we can wrap this up. I want to thank all my Johns today. Yuhanan Barzubadya,
Good job. You can call me Yehu.
Alexandros, son of Elias,
Ouch. Work on that Greek.
and Ioannes of Ephesus, who I think has passed out. Probably. Maybe he's just asleep. Or I don't know. Did they get vaccinated? Oh, okay, there he is.
I think I almost died of boredom.
Anyway, and last but not least, thank you to John the Elder.
Whatever. Just don't ever say the P word, and don't ever go there. Don't be stupid.